IVM.
This is Audiogyan, and I am your host, Kedar Nimkar. Welcome to a deep dive into the minds of luminaries from the Indian creative world. Today we have Dibyajyoti Sarma with us on Audiogyan. Dibya is a writer, poet, book reviewer, a translator. He's published 50 poetry books through Red River, an independent poetry publishing venture to publish a few good poetry collections, especially of new poets. A copy editor, a designer, senior journalist, a blogger of obscure films from world cinema, a content developer. He wears many hats currently. He is an associate editor of Print Week magazine. Thanks, Dibya, for giving your time. It's a real honor to have you on Audiogyan.
Thank you for having me, Kedar.
Cool. Yeah. So, of course, given your experience from writing, editing, publishing, even designing, right, illustrating, we have such a wide spread that we can talk about. But I think I have kept it a bit narrow for this particular, and I would definitely want to have more Audiogyan sessions with you. But this in particular would be understanding your process and knowing some secrets about your work related to publishing a poem. So yeah, I've come up with few questions and would really curious to know your process. So I'll start off with the first one is that you've published more than 50 books on poem. If you can start by how do you select these poets?
Okay. See, first of all, this is the whole exercise is a bit unnerving for me, so to speak, because I have to clarify this because I'm not an expert in either publishing or in poetry. I came to poetry, poetry publishing in 2017 officially, though I have been doing it for some time since 2014. I officially came here to publishing in 2017. So it's been 3 years. So whatever I say, you must take it with a pinch of salt. Okay, first off, this is the first caveat. Second thing, how do I select poets? Actually, I don't. It comes to me. I mean, what happened is, okay, I have to tell you the background probably a little bit. So I am a poet. I started writing first in Assamese, then I had to translate my own work into English because I was in Pune for some time and people won't understand Assamese there. So when I was looking for my second book of poems to be published, then I looked around and I realized that there are hardly any avenues for poetry publishing. There are some publishers, there are these so-called self-publishers or vanity publishers, but then they are not giving me the kind of attention to the poems, the book that I wanted out. Then I decided that why not try it myself? So I went to the ISBN office since I was in Delhi and figured the whole process out and got my book out. That was in 2014.
Sorry to interrupt here, but so why did you try to identify why they were saying no? Is it because of the newness or is it because of the poetry format itself?
See, there is a saying in the market, the poetry doesn't sell. Which is true for most publishers. Publishing is a business, right? You have to invest in the paper, in the printing, you have to invest in distributions, then you have to send it to the sellers, and people don't buy poetry, which I completely agree. After being a publisher for 3 years, I completely agree. People don't buy poetry. So, so what happens is, so there are publishers who will probably publish your book, but they will ask you to pay a certain amount of money and they'll give you a certain amount of book, which I agree. Okay, it's a good model. But then they're not giving me enough attention to the book that, every poet has a vision. Okay, I want my book to look like this. But I was not getting that. So then I said, okay, let me try it myself. So I got the book out and then I gave it away mostly because people don't buy poetry. So I gave it away. And then I got a group of friends in Delhi who are also poets of the same age group. And they will also had their own manuscripts. They also wanted to bring out books. And they sort of started pressurizing me that, okay, why don't you publish my book as well? Why don't you publish my book as well? So it sort of started there. I started publishing with my friends. Okay. And I got lucky because my friends were better poets than me. So their books worked. I mean, like within the circle. So it's like, if I have to give you a breakdown, like, compared to other books, say for example, a fiction book in India, if it sells 3,000 copies, it's a good number. Or a non-fiction book. I mean, after that, then you can go to bestseller. In poetry book, the number is 250.
Wow, that's very like a huge drop.
Yes. And for me, if I can sell 100 copies of a book, I will be very happy. Again,
Ac-
like,
Across India, are you serious? 100 copies?
I know. It's it's a weird, no, the population of India, something like, no. So it's a weird logic, but that's a fact. I mean,
Hmm.
like, sometimes like I cannot find 100 people to buy my books.
Yeah, it's very surprising because I'm sure, matlab, on Instagram there must be like more poets and doing some stand up, open mic and poetry reading, and I don't know, even they are not buying
No, no,
poetry.
no, not. See, not from young people, not from India. So they would buy like probably foreign poets, or they would probably buy Gulzar or a Faiz or a Neruda, but not like poet of our age.
Hmm.
So I am just hoping that probably 10 years down the line, my books would be popular because my poets would be old by then.
Hmm.
Then I will start reprinting them, and then we'll make merry. For
Right.
right now, that's the process. So basically, it's a passion project.
Okay.
I'm grateful for the fact that I have a day job thanks to Ramu sir, my boss. I mean, like he allows me to do that because in no other job, I mean, in any other job, for example, I would not be allowed to do this side hustle, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
he's been like actively supporting me in this project, and then I've been able to do that because I have a day job, so I can earn my bread, if not butter.
Okay. And like
Okay.
so yeah, coming back to how did you select those poets? I mean, and
After that,
also the poems, like was there any particular genre that you were looking forward to, and that's how, like, any process of selecting the poets apart from being your friends?
no, yeah. So my friends are mostly done now, so they have published. So after that, like normally I get manuscripts from the book. So I don't know, it's a very odd process. There's no 1 year stake. So something that I like, for example, I like, and something that I like. And the second thing is, it's okay, this is something that I should not say in public probably. If I want to work with a person,
Hmm.
because it's a poetry process. So like I agree that like, it's a very personal thing. At the same time, when you make a book, you are making it public. So there is a gap between the personal feelings and making it public. So I come into the picture there. So I have to understand that I can work with this person or not. If the person is like, stubborn or like, I want it this way, then I have to say, no, I cannot work with you. There will be a negotiation. There should be a give and take. There should be like, partnership.
Got it.
So I look at that. Poetry and the quality of the poetry is something like I tell the poets, like, give me basic poetry, I can make it good as long as you are willing to work hard on it. I can give you all the tools to make them better, but I
Mm-hmm.
need your dedication to your willingness to make it better.
And what sort of tools are these, if I may take a tangent?
Rewrite, edit, cut, because we tend to speak more as Indians. We tend to speak more, and poetry demands you to say less as
Hmm.
possible. Say less. So basically, cut. Let go of the way you want to say it, and like cut, delete, and whatever remains is the kernel of it, the
Correct.
truth.
Hmm.
It
Very
makes sense.
interesting. Yeah, totally. Because there is one Marathi saint, Tukaram.
Mm,
He said, "Tuka म्हणे बर्वे जाणं व्हावे लहान होणं लहान." So, like, yeah, I mean, less is more kind of a philosophy there,
mm.
that you keep it. And yeah, so you said about like this is like a relationship that's being built, right?
Yes, yes.
So I like I'll just like jump one question ahead because
Mm,
that's more connected here. It's like how do you, I mean, how does that process go? If you can talk about in
mm,
detail. I
mm, mm,
mean,
mm,
you talk to the poet, and probably the poet has this worldview or this
mm,
particular expression that he or she wants to share through verses or through couple of words.
mm.
So, like, what does happen at a nuance level?
Okay, it's not nuance. It's actually very aggressive, so to speak. So if I like a manuscript, I mean, like, somebody sends me a mail and say, okay, this is my manuscript. If I like it, then I'll ask the person, the poet, to give me a call. We'll talk. The first of all, I'll say that, see, I like your poem, but we have to work on it. So are you agree to work on it? It will take time, and there will be a process of editing. There will be 3, 4, rounds of editing. So we won't add anything you don't like. And if I suggest something, I'll give a clear reasoning why I'm saying this. It's not like, arbitrary, but we have to work with me on that. One.
Hmm.
Second thing, this is the limitation of our press. I cannot make you popular. I can make you a bestseller. I cannot even make your books available in all the bookshops, not in the airports, especially. That's something like I'm seeing this in Facebook, everybody posts books in the airports. Why? Anyway, so these are the conditions. Mostly it would be available on Amazon, and I'll try to push it through my network. But I promise you that at the end of the day, I'll give you a book you can be proud of. It would be a good looking book, and it would with good point.
And again, are there number of poems, or is it again depending on the theme, or depending on how much the collection the writer has written about, the poet has written?
It's a depending on theme. There is no lower number. It can be as small as 55 pages. I have done books with 55 pages also, and but not more than 120 pages. That comes to approximately 7 to 10,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
Because in poetry, words are arranged differently. So around 7,000 to 10,000 words. So that's
Yeah.
it. If it is longer, then I'll ask okay, cut it out, or or wait for the next edition, include them in the next edition.
Yeah.
So on
And
and so
and
forth.
cut it because of the production cost, or generally it demands a cut.
Production cost also, because we are selling our books. Okay, I'm giving the whole nitty gritty of the business.
Yes, I wanted to get into that.
So see, our production cost also. See, I'm printing the book. I'm not giving the printing cost. Then that will be a big business here. But see, we are printing the book at a particular cost. Then we are selling the book at 300 rupees. Right. On Amazon, on some bookstores also via a vendor. So I get on each book sale, I get 50%. Of that 50%, 10% I have to give to the author.
Got it.
So I have to keep my production costs at the minimum. And then I'm also printing digitally POD issues and a good quality paper and everything. So generally the printing cost is higher compared to a established publisher. The printing cost for my books is higher because I print less copies. Because if you print in offset with a established printer and you send them, say, 100 SKUs every month, then they will give you a discount. I send one SKU every month, so I don't get any discount.
Got
And
it.
again, POD, the cost is more, so I have to all this.
Wow, that's so. I mean, out of all this struggle and all this hustling around, I mean, I would like to really congratulate about the Witness, the book. It's a great. Recently, you did, right?
Yeah.
So
That's yeah.
yeah. You want to talk about it a bit, and also like any challenges you faced while doing that particular, because first of all, after all these logistical challenges, you are working on Descent, which is
Yeah.
which is another challenge. So you want to talk about it a bit?
No, I mean, the credit for the book goes to the editor, Ravina Das, because she kind of organized. She's an established poet, and she knows people, and she sort of organized. She wrote to all the poets, and they happily agreed that. So what happened is, when it started 2 years back, at the initial start of the pandemic, early 2020, and I was in a very odd state. I thought okay, so this is it. There's a history of poetry publishing in India. It's that one person or a couple of poets come together, they do a couple of books, and then they sort of disappear. So I am there for 3 years. And okay, this is the time. If you look at the history, so my time is up now. So probably I have to shut down Red River. Then I thought, if I shut down Red River, let's do something big, and then go out in a blaze of glory. So this project for me started from that. And then the whole country was in a mood of dissent because what's happening in Delhi and all sorts of things. Then when Navina suggested that we should do a book on the dissent and poetry, I said yes. But it was Navina who did bulk of the work. So my thing came later on when we have to design the book and then think of printing. Usually what happens when you do a anthology? See, again, question of money. I'm very bad at money and I don't know how to discuss money, but again, the money makes the world go round and round. So question of money. So when the artist write, so when a writer writes something and sends for publication, the writer should get money or some kind of remuneration for her work, right? So normally in poetry that doesn't exist. So you usually there are some journals or some publishers abroad, they may give you some money, but normally it doesn't happen in India. So what they do, usually they give you a complimentary copy with the book where your poem is appeared and you get it free. Then we had 250 poets. Then I did a cost calculation. If we send 250 copies to 250 poets, production cost plus postage cost, I'll be spending I have to take a loan out of it. It was very difficult. So finally, we took a decision that we are not giving the book for free. So we'll just send a PDF copy to the contributors. And I'm thankful to all my contributors, all 250 of them, but they agreed because they also understood the enormity of the project. And then it's a huge project, 250 poets coming together in one book. And they sort of agreed that it's all right. We'll probably buy a copy on our own. So, so that was that helped. Sort of, I must thank all my poets, for that support.
Yeah, amazing. It's very, very inspirational because, I mean, what, it's just love for poetry that drives you?
Okay. If I say yes, it will sound little show-offing. I mean, I don't know. It is, in a way, it was to start with. In the beginning, because I wanted to do something. And I think now I have sort of done it, but now I want to do it better than this. And then I think there's a responsibility. See, for example, I have poets who has published with me twice or thrice. So now I have responsibility for them. So now more than the love of it, it's a sense of responsibility for my poets. So I mean, I always call my the poets that publish my poets because I'm kind of concerned about or responsible for their well-being so that they continue writing, that I continue publishing it.
Got it.
So we are trying to build the ecosystem which is not there in India because it's a small groups everywhere. So let's see how it goes. So thankfully, what is sort of helping me go on is that from the beginning, because of my own experience of looking at a publisher and the whole understanding of the market, from the beginning, I decided that this is not going to be a money-making venture. And I'm not going to publish bestsellers. So if a poet approaches me who has some kind of a name or some kind of a fan following, the first thing I ask him or her that why don't you go to a bigger publisher? Because I believe that the poet can get more exposure, more I am here to support the younger poets who has not published yet or probably the first book or second book, and get them ready and push them into the wall, and let's see how well they do.
Great. So I'll switch tracks back to a bit of the process which you said. So any tips for young publisher, right from, because you said you got a ISBN. So if you can give even I'm not aware, I just know this word and there's some number, but if you can just share some little details about the overall process of when the poetry is or when the poems are ready in a Word doc, from there to sort of getting on the airport.
So going to the airport is still a difficult thing. I don't know. I have not done it. So basically, it's a very easy process to get an ISBN. You go to the website, isbn.gov. it's a free number. In India, it is run by Ministry of Human Resources, I think. Anyway, so it's a free number. So you just register in the website with your documentation. You have to show some documentation, and they give you a couple of numbers, so which you put in the books. Why the number is important? Because if you want to sell the book online, Amazon, Flipkart, and all, they need the number.
Oh,
so that is why it is important. And otherwise, like, it is a recognition number for a particular book. So you won't say like, this is the name, this is the editor, this is the publisher. If you put the number, then it will be available in the system. So that is the first part. Second part is, nowadays, actually, it has become very. Nowadays, if you notice, generally speaking, in India, we are publishing more books than ever, right? Which is a good thing, but we are publishing more books. There are a lot of publishers coming up. There are a lot of writers coming up. And then, maybe because in my Facebook timeline, most of them are writers. And so every day I see some books being released. So it will become very easy. And thanks to that, okay, this is my booksellers friends will hate me for saying this, but it has become easier because of Amazon or e-commerce portals.
E-commerce, correct.
Yeah. So when I started, I sold the books myself. I had a Amazon seller account, so I put list the books up and get an order, and put it myself.
Yeah. Sorry again to interrupt, but before even like the reason, like you use in one of your articles I was reading, you learned Adobe InDesign also. So typesetting or making the required illustrations or like just generally coloring it and selecting the typeface. Is it like you have learned on the fly, or it was like you spent some good amount of time understanding how it is done, or it's just like every book you're improving as you go along?
I should say this is I grew up in Assam, and then I went to Pune for my studies. Then I started working in Pune, in Times of India, Pune. And I was there for quite a long time, and it was a good life. So at 33, I was at a point where I had to make a choice. If I want to do something like, I really wanted to do, or I invest in a house. Because my friend was buying a house and he was insisting that why don't you buy a flat above me? And everything was ready. Then I said, okay, when the loan amount would be over till I'm 50. So that means I have to continue doing this job to pay the loan. And I said, okay, no, I want to do something else. I wanted to be in a publishing. I want to join a publishing house. And that is why I joined a newspaper. So I came to Delhi. I wanted to join a publishing house. Nobody would hire me because I don't have experience. But what happened in the meantime, I had this crazy obsession with books. I mean my house is, if you come to Delhi also, it's full of books. So what happened, I have seen how the books are being designed. So there are things that I picked up. Okay, this is I like. Oh, this I don't like. This is how I want to be done. So, those kind of things. So then there are some favorite publishers that, okay, when I have I will do a book like this. I will design a book like this. So those things by osmosis it happened. So when I started doing it, I learned Adobe because I was doing it in the newspaper. So it was very easy to pick up. And then I started experimenting with the things that I had in my mind. Oh, I want to do it this way. Oh, I have seen this somewhere, So I want to work with this. So that way it happened.
Yeah, it's all organic. Out of the curiosity that you wanted to, you envision some output and then you just try to reach that through whatever means you can.
So, I mean, if you look at the covers of my earlier book, you will see that because the earlier covers, I'm putting everything there. It's like too busy, too colorful, too loud because, whatever ideas I have, I'm putting everything there because as if there is no tomorrow. But now I'm slowly learning to be minimalistic, more focused about the design, about what I want to put that, what I don't want to put that, So it's a process.
Correct. Okay, let's take a short break here. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to the show. How has your learning between building or making a print version or like a KDP version, like you have these Kindle desktop publishing also, right? So anything that you want to share about print particularly, how, I mean, just again, for a young designer who wants to just try out print. And I remember one small, you saying like Chauri Bazaar, me, or like looking for the right papers. So you want to say something about it?
The right paper is important, and then especially in digital printing. So it has been I don't know, I don't want to remember those days. It's been very tough in the beginning, looking for the right paper and the right cost and the right supplier, and especially, and then for example, in the beginning, I also wished that I wanted to use uncoated paper for my cover. The cost was really high, but I insisted that I want to do that. But then it did not work because, for example, uncoated paper, when you get a cover, for example, any book cover you take it, there's a sheen to it. It's like, it feels nice. There's a sheen to it. That's because there is a coating there. They put a coat because then the printing remains the same, it stays for a longer time. Otherwise, by wear and tear, the print goes away. In the uncoated paper, it is not there, but uncoated paper has a different look to it, different feel to it. When I learned it hard way, that it is not feasible for a mass market books, so those kind of things. Also, there are times I used to design something and then I'll take a printout at home and see how the page looks. How the font, what is the size of the font? It is too big or it is too small. Now at this point I have come to a understanding. Okay, this will work. Now I don't have to take a sample print. I just design the book and send it for printing, and 90% of the time it works. When earlier, for every book you have to check, okay, this is the aligning, that is aligning, those kind of processes. This font work, that font work. Now we have decided in a particular type of fonts, okay, this is the font we are using for text, and these are the fonts we are using for headlines and stuff.
I don't have words. I'm in awe of I can hardly imagine what you've gone through, because I'm into digital design. I do UI and I design interfaces. And whenever I just try my hands on some poster making or some print related work, I almost feel it's like starting from zero.
When you start it, when you think about it, it takes. See, this is what happens. So, when I started the design, so for 1 week there would be nothing. I mean, just thinking about. Then I sit one day, and in 3-4 hours it's done, because you keep mulling over it, what works, what doesn't work, and it's instinct also. It's comes to play.
Yeah. In fact, I remember I did one Audiogyan with Professor Uday Atwankar from IIT Mumbai, and he was saying when he asks students to design a game, he says, hey, let's design a game and the production cost should not be more than 100 rupees. So you suddenly put that constraint and you start thinking around it. So once the game is designed, he says, okay, now the same game has to be done in 50 rupees, then in 20, and then almost in 5 rupees. So you have to keep the game consistent, but just keep reducing the production cost to almost 5 or maybe 0. And in that journey, you are almost abstracting the game to its bare minimum, right? What's required. It's just truly fascinating for me. And especially in poetry, especially in design, right? We have a saying which says the best design is invisible design. And I mean, just to give you a very simple example, WhatsApp. Nobody really thinks that there are designers who are sitting and designing WhatsApp and making cool graphics and but it just works, right? So that's probably the latest example which I can give. Similarly, in poetry, how do you translate, right?
Okay. So I will say, if you're giving the good example, I would say initially, till now to a certain extent, my vision is totally opposite. Mine is more is more. Okay, I'll contextualize the answer. See, what happens when you normal book, take any normal book, fiction or something, there are those words, 100, 200 pages of just black words. So when I was growing up in Assam, in the magazines and the journals, they used to publish poetry. And with the poetry, because the poetry sort of gives you space nearby, unlike prose.
Sorry to interrupt, but Just before the translation bit, I also wanted to add, how do you edit? Because you have to still maintain the crux of it, or what the poet wants to say,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
still make it smaller or like concise, or probably rearrange something. So if you can start by editing, and then maybe we can go to translation, because translation is the second half of my setup. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, okay. So I was talking about the design. See, what happened is we talk about the minimal design, and like if you look at Red River books are not anything but minimal. We are like extremely loud to a certain extent, and this is by design. Why? Because see, what happened is all the books that you see are like plain words. There's
Hmm.
nothing, and from the beginning, I have this feeling that people don't read poetry. So that's a base,
Baseline
that's a
which
ground from where we are going on. Okay, so how do I entice people to at least pick up the book and go through it? So I have to I said okay, it has to be visually striking. Not that it's a cover. Cover is fine. Has to be good, really good. But the interior pages should have some visual element. So it has to be visually striking so that people open the book. So when they're looking at the graphic, because that is something people generally goes toward, and then they will read the words, and the words are good, then they'll read more.
Hmm. Hmm.
So usually, normally, if you look at any other poetry book, it's just a poetry book. There are poems of the poems of the poems. In my books, it's like no. Inside also there would be some kind of visual element.
Hmm.
So they would be black and white because I cannot afford color printing, and I do sort of you know yeah. So but there will be visually striking, and
Got
those have to have a conversation with the text. So there will be an element of text, then the element of visual representation. So they will both go together. So I'm learning to be minimalistic now. After doing everything that I wanted to do with all my books, I've done that. Now I'm experimenting with minimalism, experimenting with what this book needs. And
Hmm.
sometimes the poems demand some kind of different kind of treatment. So I'm working on that process.
Yeah.
Uh, so there are a lot of young artists out there. I would really love to feature their works in my books, but then I don't have the that kind of funding so that I can ask for their artwork. So usually I sort of push my poets. Do you know any artist, your friend who can give their work? We can feature free of cost. Of course, we'll put the name, and it usually works. I have published a couple of books with with featuring paintings from the poets' friends, and they're also happy, and everybody's happy, and we get a good-looking book at the end of it.
Yeah.
Okay, now the process of editing. That's a very complicated question. There is no right answer to it. It's a feeling. I mean, what happens when you before you start editing it, you have to read the poems probably once or twice, trying to understand what the poet is saying, and then make the poems as your own.
Hmm.
What would you do if you have written these lines? And then
Hmm.
you suggest, like, okay, then this is not working, this is working. I would say a different way. At the same time, you have to retain the poet's voice. So there are certain things you have to keep it. Sometimes you don't like it, but let it be because it's the poet's voice, that kind of thing. So I am still not a very good at it. So thankfully, I have a couple of poet friends whom I publish, and they are very good. And so they help me out. So
Hmm.
normally I did the first draft and then I send it to them. Then they suggest some more editing, and then we run it by the poet. And normally they agree. So I have got good friends.
Yeah. And about translation, I mean, I've done a couple of episodes with different people, with Jayashree Joshi also. So yeah, translating is a different world altogether, right? And you have been translating poets from Assamese to English. If you can give some idea about that process, and maybe I haven't read
Mm.
it, but I was just going through it, like Sananta
Samantha,
Tanti. Yes, yes.
yeah,
Who we lost recently. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you can take his example and explain that, how did you translate, why did you translate, and what was the process overall, maybe those will, like, yeah, explore.
Mm. Okay, so again, like I started publishing, got into translation because, see, first of all, Assamese as a language is not well known outside because of the lack of translators from Assamese to English, one thing. And then there are some translation happening, but I sort of did not like the way the translation happened. It was a very old style of translation. So I said, okay, let me try my hands in doing that. It's a difficult process because, I mean, I'm very grateful to work with Sandanji because we sat together and I told him that the way you write it not always resonate with like English. See, the difference between English and Indian languages is that Indian language speakers are emotional, whereas English as a language is very clinical, cut and dry.
Mm. Mm.
When we're in journalism, we're on the desk, the first lesson we're given is cut all the adjectives, don't use adjectives. And in
Mm.
our languages, we use more than one adjective at a time.
Correct.
They're
Correct.
like full of adjectives. And that's how it's a beauty of the language. I'm not blaming it good or bad, but this is how two different ways of doing that. And then English has a very strict sentence pattern, subject, verb, object, mostly. But in our languages, even in Marathi, also the same. I'm sure. It mixes. Sometimes, we can start a sentence without subject or without verb sometimes. But so those things you take care of. So the idea was to make the text sound English, so that when somebody is reading it, that person should not realize, oh, it might have sounded better in the Assamese, in the original language, but this is sounding little awkward in English. So that
Mm.
was the first reason. Sometimes I had to do it at the expense of the original sentence structure or the format,
Mm.
because the idea
Mm.
is to make the readers read it as an English text. That was my first priority, and thankfully, I had the poet with me during the translation, and he kind of agreed with me
Mm.
most of the
Mm.
time, 90% of the time. 10% we did some compromises.
Correct, correct. But when you said it's sort of a bit clinical, but it's an exception for poetry, right? I mean, poems can be a bit here and there, right? No.
No, it can be here and there, but see, it has to be here and there. It has to be, but it has to follow the target language's rules. The English has its rules. You have to
Hmm.
follow that rules. You cannot just say that, okay, I'm writing poetry, so I'm ignoring all the rules. You
Hmm.
can ignore the rules if you know the rules. So you have to
Correct.
know the rules. Okay, so I know that this is odd, but I'm deliberately doing it. That is fine. That is allowed. But
Hmm.
especially when you're translating, I think it is very important that you stringently make it English.
Hmm. 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 Wow. I mean, there's so much learning happening here right now as we speak. So Dibya,
Okay.
I mean, I have last two questions. Like one is from like Namrata Pathak's, that's how Mirai eats a pomegranate. I was just
Mm.
going through
Yeah.
Amazon, some of bits, and
Yeah.
to Robin S. Gangom's The Desire of
Mangom,
Roots.
the
Yeah,
desire of
yeah,
roots.
yeah, yeah. So can you tell like or share any 5, 10, or I don't know what, like you must be having like now you have 250 poets, but any
No,
top.
that is one book. I have say
Yeah, no, no, I'm saying
70 titles.
in your vocabulary or in your like just mind space there will be, I don't know, thousands of poets, but any top 5 you would want maybe me or like the Audiogyan audience to listen, as
Read.
in watch, yeah, read.
It's a very odd situation. I was thinking
Correct,
about
yeah,
it. I
it
mean,
happens. I
I was
mean,
uh,
yeah.
because sometimes you like a poet or like a book, and I think that okay, this is an important book. It should people should read it, and some of that book is not accepted by the readers for whatever reason. Maybe the author is not well known or is not being promoted well. So it happens like the books that I like are not did not sell very well.
Correct, correct.
Two books that I published from a Australian author of Indian origin, he's half Indian. He lives in Australia, Robert Wood. He has two books. One is called Red Gate. One is called The Guide to Field and Wood. Both are exceptional books, really good. But
Hmm.
since he's not in India and he doesn't have many connections, the book did not do well. But there are some books really did well and they are really great. For example, early this year we published a book of Haibun by Shobna Kumar. She is a poet from Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. It's called A Sky Full of Bucket Lists.
Okay.
A Sky Full of Bucket Lists. And it has done really well, beyond my expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really happy for her because the book is really good. She's an
Yeah.
exceptional poet. So recently, I must say this as a promotion. Recently, Ananthi Subramaniam, the well-known poet Ananthi Subramaniam, listed it as one of her favorite books in a piece for Open Magazine. So that was first for Red River. I'm really
Yeah.
excited about it. Yeah, there are other books. I don't want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah,
Mm,
no, I
okay.
get it because it becomes tough. Then you are actually by. I mean, I did
Yeah,
an
you have to
interview.
choose
Create.
one, choose the favorite. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not good to choose a favorite.
and I remember I interviewed Dhanashri Lele, and she said, "Read everything, watch everything, listen everything," and in fact, that resonated. I think in your TEDx talk, you spoke about poems being at a school level. Also, it just a cultural thing that you start. And you read everything and then you discover your, because poetry also is happens to be very time bound, right? You are in a particular mood to read
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
It may
yeah,
not be like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, at an abstract level, some great poetry can resonate at every walks of life, but still you are working with like new poets, so they are also refining their craft.
yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So that's what I tell my poets, when they are saying, oh, okay, after 3 months of releasing a book, they call me and ask, like, okay, how many sales and everything. I said, don't worry about the sales. The book is good and it will stay. It will, somebody, like, if not this year, next year, 10 years down the line, somebody will pick up the book, somebody will find something from that book. And that's enough.
yeah,
Poetry is something that it doesn't have to be read by everyone. So
correct.
I'm sort of because of my situation and everything, I'm kind of anti bestseller. I don't want to publish a bestseller. If one of my book become bestseller, I will be very upset because that defeats the purpose. Because I'm doing something for a particular group of people. If 10
Correct,
people likes one of my books, I'm happy. It's a one-to-one connection.
correct, correct. Yeah, I so truly resonate with this because Audiogyan is also built on that belief. There will be
Yeah,
probably 10 people who are just getting some substance from it or getting some help or some direction. And yeah, who knows, like
that's it.
with this YouTube and the internet's democratic world, people are getting benefited, whoever is
Yeah.
searching for it.
Yeah, exactly. They will find it. And then that is a better way of getting a response because they want to know, they
Correct.
want to read, and they
Yeah.
want to listen, right?
Correct, correct, correct. Cool. So Dibyajyoti Sharma, the poet and the writer, what is he up to? Like what's happening in 2022 or like
Uh,
if you can just talk about, I mean, you briefly spoke about the entire Red River publication, but
mm,
any plans taking Red River further?
mm,
What are the next?
so my boss has been after me that I should promote Red River more. And I have been little apprehensive still because I believe that you should build up a good list. Then you go out tell it, okay, I have done this. So now I think I have done moderately okay so far. So this year is to build on that and probably promote it more. So I don't have a website until now. I still don't have a proper website. So this year main focus is to build a website. Yeah, and then probably promote more. And I owe it to my poets also.
Yeah.
Because what happened earlier before the pandemic, so we used to organize readings in different cities wherever the poet is, and then we'll book a place and do a reading. Everything has stopped, and then this was also sort of meeting new readers. So that
Yeah.
all has stopped. So I'm hoping that that is back in a way,
Yeah.
and try to do some more books. Hopefully,
Yeah.
uh,
You are going to have a stall in the World Book Fair in Delhi?
no, not on my own because booking a stall is expensive. This costs around 30K. I cannot afford it right now. Plus, you will need people to man that, and I'm the only person. Yeah, this is another plan for New Year. Hopefully, I'll have some help here and there. No, but then I've been okay. I should not say it and jinx it, but anyway, I've been very lucky in terms of support. I have
Hmm.
received support. I have got friends. So there is a publisher of popular fiction called Readomania.
Hmm.
So they have asked, I mean, 2 years back also they have, suggested that I keep my books in their stall. This year also they have said that, okay, so we can keep your books in our stall. So I'm doing that. So at least your books will be there at World Book Fair, not on our own.
Okay, cool. I mean, even Audiogyan is going to complete 5 years next week.
Congratulations. That's a long time.
Yes. And I can easily plug in one thing because Audiogyan, I think when I had completed some 20-30 episodes, print week, and you edited certain pieces, did transcript. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were good. I mean, they were so good that we thought it should reach to more people who do not even listen to podcasts. So they should go there. And it was I was really impressed with your questions plus the responses.
Yeah.
So how many episodes have you completed so far?
So with you, it will be, I think, 228. Yeah, I'm still short of... I mean, like the entire project, there is no timeline as such. There is no target as such. In fact, fortunately, because of the producers and IVM recently, I have been just pushed every week. Otherwise, I was pretty religious till I joined a new startup. But then there was a 6-month gap where I couldn't because of work. And now these days it's... I'm just planning what's the plan for 2022, how I want to shape it. But this conversation has definitely given me more motivation to keep it going with the right intent, right? It's as much as you can for that select niche that you wish to share your knowledge with, or All right. Thanks, Dibya, for giving your time. Yes, it was amazing. It was same. It was same. You're very inspirational. All the best for your gigs, all the best for your next publishing, and please let me know if I can be of any help. Being a designer, I can contribute somewhere, definitely.
Yeah, sure. I'll ask you.
Yes.
I'll write to you.
Cool. Thanks a lot, and it was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. For show notes and more Gyan, visit audiogyan.com. If you like this podcast, please don't forget to check our other interesting podcast on IVM Network. You can listen to us on IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or any of your favorite podcasting apps. To stay tuned, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at IVM Podcast. And if you wish to connect with me, I am at Audiogyan Moments on Instagram. Until then, take care.
Hello! It's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On This Round is on Me, Gauri is joined by Shweta Nanda. They talk about the financial independence and how it is to be a woman entrepreneur. On Anish Thing, Anish welcomes ultra-marathon runner Shivani Gharat. Shivani shares her journey of how she ran her first marathon, the mindset of a runner, and what it actually takes to run a full marathon. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus, Naveen, Akash and Shreyas talk about the Korean band BTS serving in the military and its repercussions. On Think Fast, Varun and Suchita discuss Wing Greens and their latest acquisitions and about the Indian sexual wellness market. And on Shunyavan, Sheila Datya is joined by Dinika Bhatia, CEO and founder of Nuttigritties. They talk about coming from a business family and Dinika's journey in creating healthy and guilt-free snacking. Once again, don't forget to visit our merch store on ivmpodcast.com. We have some exciting new merch out there for you. Also, do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And do remember to spread the word about these shows and any other shows you might be listening to. Appreciate them, rate them, and review them wherever you are listening to them. You can also check out all our other shows on youtube.com/IVM Podcasts. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week. Volvo XC40 Recharge, Bumble, Heads Up for Tails, Kotak Privy League Program, and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thanks guys, without you this would not be possible.
Do you often find yourself surrounded by conversations about Web3, blockchain, NFTs, DAOs? What are these terms and how do they affect our future on the internet? So many questions, but don't worry, we've got answers to all your questions. Hi, I'm Eklavya Bhattacharya, and on our show Future Proofing, we try to decode the impact of these future technologies on various industries with experts and tech enthusiasts. Tune into new episodes coming out every Thursday on the IVM Podcast app and the website, or wherever you get your podcasts from.